This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, we're back here at Craig Zinn's Acura Pembroke Pines, and there he is, Manny Navarro. Manny, we were just talking about this before you came on. Somebody asked me about Ed Reed at Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah.
And I was talking about how I think people underestimate how impressive what Deion Sanders was able to pull off at Jackson State. And I think people are thinking that Ed is going to pull kind of the same thing there. And I don't believe that because I think Deion is like he's a rarity. He's one of those guys that has this personality that can gravitate and bring people in. And I don't know if Ed is that kind of guy. I don't think Ed is actually that kind of guy. I think he's a pro and all that stuff, but he's kind of a under the radar mellow guy, that kind of stuff. I don't know if he has that kind of connections, and I don't even it's just I kind of think people expect him to start doing what Deion did at Jackson State, where 4 and 5 star recruits and the number one recruit in the country is going to say, yeah, I'll go and play for you. I think people are in for a rude awakening, and I think he's going to have his struggles there. I think he'll do all right, but I don't think if people think that, this is Jackson State part 2.
Right.
Very, very few people can do what Deion did at Jackson State. That's all I'm saying. Your thoughts on that? You've been around Ed more.
Yeah, I mean, the sense I get with Ed, and you're right, Deion is sort of a different animal because Deion really has set out, his mission to be a successful coach in college football, right? Like that was his aspiration for a while. He wanted to coach his sons, be around his sons. I don't think Ed has any sons that play football. The motivation is maybe a little bit different, but I can understand why Bethune-Cookman would certainly make this move.
For sure.
I mean, this is maybe the biggest play that they could make. And I know this. I know Ed enjoys being around the game. I know he enjoys being around athletes and talking to them and the mentorship of it. But you're right. I think it's a different animal when you take the leap from being an advisor, a guy who sort of gives his opinion and helps give advice, to being a head coach and running a football program. And everything that I heard in the last 48 hours about that situation is he's going to have a support system around him. There's going to be coaches in place who have done this, that are going to be with him. But
again, he still won't have the budget that he really needs.
No, and that's the thing.
Deion didn't even have that budget. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Deion had partners, right? He had Under Armour. He had Amazon TV. He had all these other, extra factors that helped him land a lot of these players. Oh, and you're right. I mean, that's what I'm saying, bro. Now, the one thing I will say that helps Ed is he's in an area in Central Florida, and I get it. UCF is on the rise. They're going to the Big 12. They're going to play in a Power 5 conference.
They might even be part of the Gridiron next year.
That's correct. And what I would say is that the one thing that Bethune-Cookman could have going for it is the fact that there's no dominant football program right now in the state of Florida. So he might be able to steal a few kids, from a couple of these programs to come to an HBCU and but is he going to pull Travis Hunter out of Georgia? Is he going to, go and do some of the things Deion did on the recruiting front? I don't think it's going to be to that extent. But he'll attract. I mean, listen, I would drive to Daytona Beach and be there for Ed Reed's press conference because there's enough interest nationally to find out how a former Hall of Fame player from the University of Miami does at his new spot.
You just want to hang out in Daytona for a couple of days.
Listen, man,
you nailed Augustine and visit your parents.
I'm actually here now. That's why I got the different background.
You see, I busted him. Yeah. I know what you're up to. Yeah. Hey, no, I want to. It's a great story.
For one day. For one day.
Yeah, for one day. Yeah.
So people will be interested. I just don't think it's going to carry nearly as much weight as Deion. You're right. You're right about that.
Yeah, it's just I think people underestimate what Deion did there, bro. I really do. Like the juice he brought there, that was unheard of, man. Because they're gonna gravitate to USC and Alabama and Michigan if you're Amazon or any of those kind of outlets or whatever. You're not going to an HBCU school, man. That's just that's unheard of, man. I'm telling you. How do you think he's going to do at Colorado now?
Well, it's interesting. I've written a few stories. I'm actually part of the team at the Athletic that's doing a lot more coverage on Deion at Colorado, and I can tell you this: there's some of the most read stories on our website because he's just a lightning rod for attention, And I was just having this discussion with my father. I think there's a lot of people who want to see Deion fail, because he's the
For sure.
showboater,
For
the
sure.
guy who walks around with swag and calls himself Coach Prime. And college football is full of haters. Oh, so there's a lot of people who are rooting against him, want to see him fail. And the thing that I don't really understand is Deion's. If you think about it, he's been a good person, right? Like he hasn't gotten in trouble with the
He's a
law.
great person.
He's given his money away to people to help different charitable causes. He's coached at high school and yet a lot of ill will towards him because
Well, I'll tell you why I think there's ill will inside of college football because he's doing it the untraditional way. And
correct.
because he didn't pay his dues all the way through, so you're not going to be. I can see the people inside the sport that are rooting against him because then that opens it up for other people to do it, and then that cuts their legs off because
Mhm.
they're all trying to climb the ladder to get to where Deion is at and get that opportunity also. So I can see that, but to this I say, hey man, these programs or these teams or these CEOs, they get to hire whoever the hell they want to hire. And if Jim Irsay wants to hire Jeff Saturday, or if the Niners want to hire John Lynch, or if the Warriors want to hire Steve Kerr, well then so be it. And if the Nets want to hire Steve Nash, then go ahead and do whatever. It's your team, it's your program, you whatever it is. You make the decisions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've got to live with the results. But here's the part that I have an issue with those people that want to hate. The problem is some of these things have worked out. If
Yep.
they all failed, then okay, I tell you, but there is a John Lynch and there is a Steve Kerr. And so Mark Jackson did a good job until they fired him, actually. I know I just read a story now where he wants to get back into coaching, but we do have successes. For some of the failures that are out there, we actually have some success stories. So we had Marty Herney. I don't know if you know the name, but
Mhm.
he was the first guy that skipped from our business, media, and became the general manager of the Carolina Panthers.
Wow.
And he then brought in Polian, and they ended up going to the Super Bowl. And then when Polian left, he then brought in Ron Rivera. And he did a pretty good job for a certain amount of time. And then Herney was then, you like always, you're hired to be fired eventually overall. But that's my problem with all of this. If they were all Magic Johnson, then I could, tell you, hey, bro, this is a joke. What are you doing? But the problem is you can turn to me and say, well, wait a minute. Oh, this guy succeeded and this guy succeeded and this guy succeeded and this. So we got to, you got to respect their decisions, whether it works out or it doesn't. We'll see. But I'm with you. Deion's done nothing wrong, except he's always been a showboater,
Right.
always been a self promoter. But the one thing he's always done is back up everything he's ever done.
Yeah. He's had
Everything.
success at every level, and yes, he carries himself differently, and it is self promotion, right? He's this Amazon crew following him. But look, he feels like he needs to set example for his people, is what he calls it, right? I need to help other black coaches be successful in this business. This is my life mission. And if this is the way he feels and he's doing it the right way and caring about himself the right way, there's nothing you can do to knock him because
You know how you knock me out. I don't know how you knock anything about Deion Sanders. Why? Because you're pissed off that he's cocky? Well, guess what? When you're that successful, you can be all the cocky you want. Yeah, there's Walter Payton and there's, all kinds of other athletes, Cal Ripken, and we can find all the ones that are humble all the way through their whole careers and all that stuff. But there's plenty that were braggadocious.
oh
And if
yeah.
you're going to brag, you got to back it up. And that's the one thing. Deion went down to Jackson State with the braggadocious, and guess what? He backed it all up.
Yeah.
So,
This
give him respect in that sense.
This will be a different animal. Antonio Morales, who covers USC, he and I teamed up to write the story that we put in the Athletic yesterday, which is kind of a roster assessment and kind of how big of a hole does Deion have to climb out of there at
Sure.
Colorado. I will tell you, I don't know if there's a worse Power Five program that he's taking over in the country. To be honest with you, I know there's Rutgers and other teams that have always sort of been mired, and Duke for a while was one of the worst. And now, obviously, you've seen what Mike Elko's been able to do. But he's going to a conference in the Pac-12 where USC and UCLA will soon be gone. And I think he can turn this thing around relatively quickly. Is he going to win 10 games in year one? No. Is he going to win 8 games in year one? Probably not. He'll be lucky to get the 5 or 6 wins with the turnaround job he has to do. But to answer your initial question, I think he can be successful at Colorado in a couple of years and build a thing where now you got to respect that program, and you can't blame Colorado for it. Because what did Colorado have going for it before this?
Nothing. Great move by Colorado. Great move. You can't lose by doing this. You can only win. A loser would be not to try this,
Right.
because he has juice that most people just don't have. So I'm with it. Listen, dude, Kentucky's winning in football, bro.
Yep.
Okay? There's a
Kentucky and
couple
Duke. Kentucky and Duke are
and
winning
Duke
football.
and Duke. They've become pretty good football programs, and they're all about basketball. So, and Colorado won a national title at one point. With was it Washington that they shared a national title?
I think it was Georgia Tech in
Georgia
1990.
Tech. That's right.
Yes.
It was Georgia
hmm
Tech. Yes,
hmm
exactly. Miami and Washington shared the title.
Miami and Washington in '91.
That's
I
what it
think
was.
it was Colorado, Georgia Tech in '90.
You're
It
right.
was back
You're
to
right.
back years where it was.
You're
Yep.
right. And so, listen, they've had success in the past. They've got a great fan base there. They've got a great following there. They just got to get the right person. I think it's the right move on their part to try and bring a guy like that can really bring a lot of attention to Colorado. And again, by the way, Deion Sanders is doing a lot of good for a lot of people, not just coaches, but he's doing a lot of good for those kids too, and opening up doors for them. So to me, picking on Deion is just you're just jealous or something, or it's just, I don't know what it is. He's not a bad person. He's never been a bad person. All he's ever been is braggadocious. Big freaking deal, dude. Lots of people are like that promote themselves and all that stuff. The question is, can they back it up? And he's backed it up every single time. All right, what's new in the recruiting front for the Canes?
Well, I caught up with Cormani McLean briefly yesterday. I was in Orlando for the Under Armour All-American Media Day. I know that's been a big story. Everybody
And
keeps
you
wondering.
told them, make a damn decision.
Well, listen again. The way I wrote my story the first time on Cormani, and the way I've sort of portrayed it to you and different people who've tuned into my podcast as well is, I think the mom's driving the train here. I think mom is the one making a lot of these decisions. Yesterday, Cormani showed up for media day like he was supposed to do. Every player had to show up, but he didn't talk to the media. He took pictures, he shook hands, he said hello, talked to me briefly. And I tried to squeeze a few questions in to see what I could get out of him to find out what the hell's going on. He's doing a signing ceremony event on the 15th. I know that for sure.
Where?
At his school is my understanding, at Lakeland. He was supposed to have his ceremony on the 21st, and that obviously got canceled and delayed. I asked him point blank. I said, "Are you signing with Miami?" He just smiled. He said, "Everything is going to be okay." I can tell you this. So he walked around flashing the U. He wore the Miami hat for pictures. He showed up in Miami gear. So unless this is all staged to help TV ratings, right, or to help mom get that documentary rolling, I think that he's going to sign with Miami. But am I
Well,
one?
when you told me the mom's in charge, I got to tell you something. I feel good about Miami now, because Cristobal's the kind of guy that mom loves.
Well, I don't know if is he on the dollar bill? Is he Cristobal? Did he get on the 20? Did he replace Jackson
Well,
on the 20?
see, the money's all the same.
Right.
I
Well,
no, I'm serious. The money's probably not much of a difference anywhere. He's going to get money wherever he goes. He'll have a great NIL deal wherever he goes. I think then you start to look foundationally, who's the person that's going to be around my son all the time,
mhm.
and how the hell do you not want Mario Cristobal around your son?
Well,
You know what I mean?
I
So
think
that's the way I look at it.
I look at it this way. I think he's got a great relationship with DeMarcus Van Dyke. Okay, I think if you were to ask Cormani McLean where does he want to play football, he would say Miami.
DVD.
But it's a business. I think Mom has looked at it as a business from the get go, and we'll see on the 15th what he does. He can sign a financial aid agreement. What is it? Grant and aid agreement, something like that, is the way they phrase it. He can sign that on the 15th, and then I think really sign on the February 1st. And from that point there, figure out when he's going to get into college. I think the kid's confused himself. He told me he'll be on campus in February. He obviously can't enroll in February. Okay, so I think there's a little bit of confusion on his part as far as what he's being told by people around him.
When's he supposed to be on campus?
If he's not enrolled in classes at Miami on January 15th, then that means he's not enrolling till the summertime.
No. You misunderstood. He's enrolled in January. He doesn't have to show up till February. That's the thing.
Right. Well, he's got to be in classes by 5 days after the start of school.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
That might be a hologram that's in class the first month.
Right. Maybe that's what it is.
What it is. It's
Online classes, right? Maybe that's what it is.
It's a Cromani hologram. That's part because you'll see it's one of his NIL sponsors is going to be a hologram company.
There you go.
So one of the first experiments is that Cromani will be in the first month of school as a hologram. And so that'll be a story you will be writing. First student ever studying from home through hologram. And there you go.
That'll get a lot of clicks. People want to be familiarized. So I would say a lot of athletes want the same program. They want to get hooked up with the same hologram.
is cutting edge, bro. It's not just medicine; it's technology also. So it's what it's all about there at the U. Cutting technology and cutting classes. Yeah, baby, that's what it's all about right there. All right. Outside of recruiting, any other news we should know about wise?
Just transfer portal is going to get kinked up here in the next week or two after the first. You'll start to have on-campus visitors from other programs. I think Miami offered a defensive tackle, or he's supposed to be visiting campus from Memphis, a 6'6", 340-pound kid supposed to be stopping by. So, the one thing I'll tell people is whatever you find in the transfer portal at this point are going to be just guys. Unless somebody decides I want to go get paid somewhere else and there's some tampering involved, right? I think you're going to see just guys available because otherwise they'd be done already. They'd already be signed in, with their schools. I'm not saying there's not guys that can't help Miami out there. All I'm saying is the Jalen Phillips, the Daryl Jacksons, the KJ
Osborne's, yes.
Right. Those kind of guys I don't think are what you find unless these guys decide, hey, I want to go get paid, and then they enter the transfer portal, which will be a big deal.
Besides Colorado Buffalo stories, what else are you working on in the athletics so folks can check you out?
Well, I did a recruiting confidential series with 15 different All-American players. I asked them how much they were offered in NIL. So I got some interesting stories on that. I asked them about who finished second and why in their recruitment. So it'll be coming out sometime early next week. Turned it into my editors yesterday for them to read. A couple questions might get phased out because it might be frowned upon publicly. I asked how much did females were involved in their recruitment when they visited campuses. I got some interesting answers there too. So I don't know if all of that will make the light of day, but I'm a guy who likes to know the story. I want to know the truth, right? And these guys, when they do these interviews, a lot of times they're not being very truthful. They're kind of withholding. I did a recruiting diaries with Willie Williams. I've done them with other athletes, and there's a political game to all of it. What if you give these guys?
I don't think you go to the U for the girls. I think you go to the U for the girls in South Florida.
Correct. I mean, that's kind of where the conversations went. It'll be an interesting piece that comes out early next week. Getting a bunch of the best players in the country playing this All-American game to kind of be honest about stuff and what was most important in the decision making process. Where did NIL rank for them? All that kind of stuff. So that'll be coming out, and then there'll be more coverage. I interviewed a ton of guys. I have so many stories lined up to tell here during the off season. It's just a matter of when I get to actually writing it. But I will be involved more on the recruiting front nationally and covering Deion, etc. So my role will be changing a little bit with the Athletic. I'll still always have eyes on the Hurricanes and be around for games and write and be at practices, but expanding my role in other ways too.
All right, Sean. Yeah, Manny's writing a piece on players getting a piece. All right. Follow him on Twitter and Manny_Navarro and catch his work there, catch his piece over at The Athletic. Subscribe there so you can find out about pieces. All kinds of pieces all throughout South Florida. Manny, Happy New Year, my friend. We'll catch up next week. Appreciate you.
All right, brother. Happy New Year, guys. Take care.
You got it. There you go. The great Manny Navarro, Canesworth, 2511 South University Drive in Davie. They've got anything and everything practically with the logo on it. It's amazing. I tell you, Brett can find it. He has it inside the store. You name it. Something for the bar, something for your room, something for your office, something for a friend. They got jerseys, shirts, hats, helmets, neon signs for your bar, sneakers, sandals. They've got Dolphins gear. They've got Marlins gear. They've got Panthers gear. They've got Inter Miami gear. And did I miss anybody else? Inter Miami, Dolphins. No, that's it. I think that all 6 pro teams, they've got them in town. Well, 5, and UM's kind of treated like a pro team. We were having that conversation yesterday, actually. I was at a bar last night, and we were meeting with some folks, and we were talking about that, how the U is really a pro team in town. Because, that we were at this bar, and they were telling us that, and the place was packed with FSU fans because FSU was playing, right? So, and he was telling me, man, but we don't get as much for the U. And I told him, and I explained to him, because he's the owner, but he's an out-of-town guy. He's from Chicago. And I explained to him, I said, the U's, they're a pro team. They're not a college football team. I know they play in college and all that, but they're a pro team. And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, well, most parents can send their kids to FAU, FIU, Florida, and Florida State. That's where your alumni bases are. And UCF has grown as a monster because of that, because most parents can afford to send their kids there. They can't really send them to the University of Miami. So when you go on campus, most of those kids, or half of them, are from another country. They're just grabbing their degrees and leaving, taking the education and going. And so that's why they're like a pro team. When they're good, the place is packed. But see, Florida State and Florida are always going to have it because the people that are following them aren't just fans. They actually went to the school. They actually care about it. They spent time in the dorms, in the classrooms, in the stadiums, all that stuff. So there's an alumni base that is strong, that does not exist for the University of Miami. Very few people in your life actually went to the University of Miami and graduated from the University of Miami, because most of the people cannot afford to go to the University of Miami. Those that can afford it, great. Or those that got incredibly great grades to the point that they got some kind of scholarship from them, fantastic. My daughter did that a little bit. So, yeah, I get it. You can do some of that. But more often than not, that's the reason why they're kind of like a pro team. And that's why the stadium isn't packed every week, and it never will be. It'll only be packed when they're good. So when Mario gets them back to being really good, then they'll get back to getting the place packed, because most of the people that are in that stadium never went to the University of Miami. They never took a class there. They never graduated from there. They just follow them like a pro team. It's a whole different ballgame. And then he was like, damn, that makes a lot of sense. And of course it does, because that's the reality, unfortunately, of the University of Miami. They are the 6th pro team in town, and that's how we treat them. We treat them like a pro team. The Marlins, you suck, we're not showing up. Panthers, you're not good, we're not showing up. Dolphins sometimes, even though, I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Dolphins get a pretty packed house overall, even when they do suck, which is actually pretty amazing on our part. Our fan base is pretty damn good supporting this Dolphins team over the years. Don't forget, you order over $99 at caneswear.com. You will get free shipping anywhere in the country. Go to caneswear.com and check it out. That is your Caneswear report.